Welcome back to our channel. Today is a truly beautiful day to dive deep into the drama unfolding in Port Charles. We have so much to unpack from this latest episode, and I'm practically buzzing with excitement to share my thoughts with all of you. Grab your favorite coffee to get comfortable, and let's get right into the heart of the action. I feel so incredibly electrified by that final scene in the Corinthos coffee warehouse, because to me, it finally proved that the writers truly understand the foundational dynamic between Laura Collins and Sunny Corinthos. When Laura stood her ground, looked Sunny dead in the eye and firmly declared, "I can't let you kill Sidwell and pretend it didn't happen." I literally cheered at my screen. I love the way the lighting in that warehouse scene was staged. The heavy oppressive shadows clinging to the coffee crates perfectly mirrored the dark, lethal path Sunny wants to take, while Laura stood in a sliver of harsh overhead light representing the unyielding moral authority of the law. The way I interpreted Laura isn't just speaking as the mayor of Port Charles in that moment. She is speaking as a woman who has survived the absolute worst of the Cassadine mob underworlds, and she is desperately trying to keep her team from crossing a line they can never uncross. I know a lot of people in the fandom are saying this Jen Sidwell storyline is dragging, or that Sunny should just take him out and be done with it. But I actually think the slow burn is exactly what's needed, because I feel like it raises the emotional stakes for everyone involved. If Sunny just puts a bullet in Sidwell, we lose the psychological tension. Lucas Jones is standing right there in that warehouse clutching the Windermere safe combination that Pascal just gave him before boarding that plane to freedom. I feel like this is the best they've written Lucas in years, because he is finally getting to actively participate in the pursuit of justice for Marco Rios. Lucas doesn't just want a mob hit. He wants Sidwell exposed. He wants the blackmail photos retrieved. He wants the world to know what this monster did. I genuinely believe that having Lucas and Laura team up to act as the moral brakes on Sunny's lethal instincts is a brilliant narrative choice. It creates a beautiful tense friction within their alliance. Sunny tasked the pilot with keeping Pascal in the air until they have what they want, which shows his ruthless pragmatism. But Laura's protection reminds us that they are supposed to be the good guys here. Speaking of brilliant narrative choices, we have to talk about Brooklyn Quartermain, because I'm absolutely in love with how her paranoia is manifesting right now. The writer's choice to have Brooklyn enlist Lucy Coe as her secret ally is, in my opinion, an absolute stroke of comedic and dramatic genius. When Brooklyn pulled Lucy aside and desperately whispered, "Someone is after my husband and I need your help," I felt such a profound wave of empathy for her. I think it makes perfect sense that Brooklyn would avoid going to her grandmother Tracy with this. We all saw Tracy explode at the boathouse, immediately jumping to the worst conclusions and threatening Chase with lawyers. Tracy is a bull in a china shop, and Brooklyn knows that if she unleashes Tracy, her marriage might become collateral damage. But Lucy is sneaky, she is observant, and she knows exactly how to navigate the messy waters of infidelity and temptation. I feel like Brooklyn is incredibly vulnerable right now, and relying on Lucy to be her eyes and ears to watch Willow and Chase without being obvious is the exact kind of messy, desperate soap opera scheming that I live for. And let us talk about Willow Kane, because the way I see it, the current iteration of Willow is the most fascinating she has ever been. I know the fandom is up in arms complaining that the writers have ruined Willow by making her a hypocrite, but I strongly disagree. I think her current delusion is a masterclass in psychological storytelling. When Willow squealed, "Chase is this amazing," and threw herself into his smiling arms, I physically cringed, but in the best possible way. The sheer audacity of her excitement. She is completely fixated on her ex-husband, utterly blind to the boundaries of his marriage to Brooklyn. And worst of all, she's doing all of this while secretly keeping her current husband, Drew Kane, locked in a paralyzed state. I feel like the writers are intentionally leaning into Willow's dark side. Showing us a woman who has justified her own horrific actions so deeply that she genuinely believes she is just a supportive friend to Chase. When Chase smiled and caught her in that hug, I felt a deep pang of sorrow for him. Chase is a good man, and I believe he genuinely views this as a pure moment of celebration. But what exactly is the good news? I am on the edge of my seat trying to figure out if Alexis Davis has finally finalized baby Phoebe's adoption papers, or if Chase has actually decided to accept Willow's highly manipulative job offer to work as her chief of staff in Washington, D.C. If it's a job offer, I will be screaming at my television. Because he promised Brooklyn it would be a mutual decision. I think Michael Corinthos' invisible hand in pushing these two together is making the storyline incredibly rich. Michael is setting a trap, and Willow is walking right into it with a massive, oblivious smile on her face. I love the physical acting in that hug scene. Willow held on just a second too long. Her eyes closed in a way that screamed romantic longing while Chase just looked happy and relieved. It is a slow-motion car crash, and I cannot look away. This brings me to the incredible dynamic between Nina Reeves and Liesl Obrecht. I genuinely think we're missing the point if we don't appreciate the deep historical irony of Nina worrying about someone else's romantic obsession. When Nina confided in Liesl expressing her deep fear that Willow is setting herself up for massive heartbreak, I felt the raw maternal desperation in her voice. Nina is a lot of things, but she is not stupid. She can see the way Willow looks at Chase. She knows that this is not just the interest of a good friend. I think it is so poignant that Nina, who has made so many catastrophic mistakes in the name of love, is now forced to watch her daughter walk down the exact same destructive path. But the absolute highlight of that interaction was Liesl's response. I feel like Liesl is functioning as the voice of the audience right now. When Liesl warned Nina to stay out of the situation and that Willow find out for herself that going after a married man is a terrible decision, I was nodding along in total agreement. Liesl knows that Nina's interference always backfires. I think the writers are doing a phenomenal job of showcasing the growth in Liesl. She is pragmatic. She is sharp and she understands that some lessons have to be learned through pain. I believe that if Nana tries to forcefully intervene, Willow's stubbornness will just cause her to double down on her fixation with Chase. The history between Nana and Willow is so fraught with tension and broken trust, and I love that the show is using this Chase situation to test the fragile mother-daughter bond. I feel so anxious for Nana because she is watching a train wreck happen in real time. And her own aunt is telling her to just let it crash. Now let us pivot to the high-stakes tension happening in the art world because the confrontation between Uthan Lovett and Uva Durham gave me absolute chills. When Uthan cornered Uva and made his demand, the air in the room was thick with history and hostility. Uva just looked at him with that signature ice-cold smirk and said, "You want me to keep my mouth shut?" I love the way the camera lingered on Uva's face in that moment. Uva Durham is the undisputed queen of leverage in Port Charles, and handing her a secret. This explosive that Uthan is the biological father of baby Phoebe, and that he was tied to the late Delilah Wolson, is like handing a loaded gun to an arsonist. I think the chemistry between these two characters is off the charts, rooted in mutual distrust and survival instincts. I feel like this is the best they've written Uthan since his return because it adds a layer of tragic self-sacrificial nobility to his character. Uthan doesn't want Uva to keep quiet to protect himself. He wants her to keep quiet to protect Phoebe. The way I interpret his motivations, Uthan has looked at his own chaotic grifter lifestyle, and he has looked at the stable, loving home that Chase and Butchclun can provide, and he has made the ultimate sacrifice. He wants his baby girl to be raised in a family full of love, far away from the danger that follows him and the legacy of Delilah's shady art connections. When Uthan practically buggered Uva to understand that he just wants what is best for the child, I felt my heart break for him. I know some fans think Uthan is just running from responsibility, but I actually think this is the most responsible thing he has ever done. He is breaking his own heart to ensure Phoebe has a good life. But of course this is General Hospital and secrets have a way of clawing their way to the surface. I firmly believe that Uva will use this information when it suits her, and the anticipation of that fallout is keeping me glued to the screen. When you look at the canvas as a whole right now, it is just a masterpiece of interconnected storytelling. You have the dark, gritty underworld drama playing out in the Curruntha's warehouse with Laura and Luckers, desperately trying to pull Sonny back from the brink of murder. You have the soapy domestic betrayal brewing at the Quatamuna estate, with Butchclun turning to Lucy Kerr to spy on a completely delusional Willow, who is throwing herself at Chase. And you have the emotional, secretive custody drama with Uthan, Uva, and Alexis fighting over the fate of baby Phoebe. I feel so incredibly validated as a fan to see all these different tones, the mob thriller, the romantic soap, the family drama firing on all cylinders and weaving together so seamlessly. The way I see it, the writers are setting up a massive collision course for the summer. What happens when Luckers opens that safe at Windermere and finds out the true depths of Sudwell's blackmail? What happens when Lucy Kerr inevitably catches Willow and Chase in a compromising position and reports back to Brooke Lunn? What happens when Tracy finds out that Brooke Lunn went behind her back to enlist Lucy? And what happens when Uva Durham decides that keeping Uthan's secret is no longer in her best interest? Every single character is operating at the absolute peak of their desperation, and I am here for every single second of it. I genuinely believe that if you aren't enjoying the show right now, you aren't paying attention to the beautiful, tragic, and hilarious nuances of these characters. This is daytime television at its absolute finest, and I cannot wait to see what happens tomorrow.